What's wrong with you?
Mum and Dad.
Why? What they said?
Not letting me go to Rotherham again at night.
Why?
Something to do with me getting into trouble or getting abused or something.
We always used to associate football with hooliganism.
To be honest, because we were always warned by, you know, the older generation that football matches aren't the place for us because they don't, you know, they're not keen on Asian people turning up.
My view on racism in football, well, coming up through grassroots, I think that possibly there is racism there, and it has been there, and it probably still is there, but obviously it's a bit more cloaked now than maybe what it was 20 years ago.
You spot it straight away. They might not look at you still might have the red and white of your team on, but what you're doing wearing that red and white, and who you know, what you think you're playing at, you can't support this team.
It all seems to have got hijacked by you know, people who just wanted to vent their aggressive tendencies and violence towards other people, and that's where the hooliganism started coming in, etc.
And racism, it was never something that was seen as something that we could actually take part in, because we always thought that, you know, that if you go to a football match, you're going to get into trouble, you're going to be beaten up. So just keep away.
So when I said I'm going to a football match, to him that would have been sirens going off. Oh, listen, don't go there, son. You're going to end up in trouble by no fault of your own.
And we were walking through town, and a bunch of football supporters saw us, and literally chased us through the town centre and out of the bus stop. And I must have been 16.
It wasn't safe. There were enough trouble trying to survive in school. Never mind going and finding it on a Saturday afternoon. So, you know, it was a pragmatic decision.
To be honest with you, that wasn't a very pleasant experience because they came quite close to catching us.
And it was because you're Kashmiri?
I think it was just because I was brown.
And I'll relay you an incident which occurred when Rotherham United were playing Stockport. And I'm sitting on the seated area now. This is the area where the kind of key boxes are, where the managers and the directors sit. And there's a young lad, he couldn't have been more than 14, sitting with his father. And every time the black centre forward for Stockport got the ball, the kid started making monkey noises and shouting things, racist abuse at this footballer, because when he was running with the ball. And every time the Rotherham United black centre forward got the ball, he was shouting, yeah, go on, you can do it, you know, you're the lad, you know, you're a... And this went on for about a good 15-20 minutes, and I turned around and I said to the father, I says, listen, you know, aren't you going to have a word with him? And he turned around and said, what's your problem? He's shouting at their black players, not ours, is he?
There was a few fans up there that obviously didn't like the cut of our jib. And there's a few, obviously, black players on the bench, and because it was so enclosed and they're so close to the players, you had a few of them banging on the dugout and just being directly racist. And
it's very different from the late 70s and 80s. There was always, like I said, an underlying feeling of fear as what's going to come round the corner. That's the best way I can describe it, to be honest with you.
Not least of which has been a sense that attending games, they would find themselves subject to racist abuse. And that's something that is a very difficult obstacle and hurdle for us to overcome.
Get into trouble, get abused. They don't know what they're on about. It's not the 60s anymore, it's different. Don't worry, I'll talk to them. It'll be alright, it will.
We were willing to take the risk because we were keen supporters. But I don't think that's there anymore, to be honest with you.
Even as long ago as the 80s, I can remember feeling that way, going to games and thinking, this is awful, some of the things you hear. But the game set about it.
And if I look back now, I've been to a number of football matches recently, the last few years, and the atmosphere is absolutely fantastic.
We don't see that. I don't see that racial abuse. I don't see that kid, that 14-year-old child, who's shouting abuse at the other player's team's black player, and the father's listening.
The atmosphere is fantastic. There's not a hint of any racism nowadays.
If there are examples now where we hear racist comments from supporters, we will be told about that by supporters. You know.
So what we try to do is, as soon as anything like that happens, we attack it straight away.
At Rotherham United, I've done a tremendous amount of work.
I think there have been tremendous strides. Certainly in terms of just attacking that one problem of overt racist behaviour in football grounds. Racist comments, gestures, etc. are now a criminal offence and are treated like that.
It needs to become a family-friendly, you know, kind of atmosphere in those terraces. Until we get that kind of family-friendly atmosphere outside of the ground as well as inside the ground, you're going to find people that probably don't want to go there with their families, you know, their children to watch a game because they don't know what's going to happen.
And in order to achieve that equality standard, clubs have to do a lot more than simply show that they don't allow racism on the terraces.
Great goal of any game. Glad you personally come back. Lucky mate, I tell you. Good game, worth it. Yeah,
It's not that Asian boys don't like football, they absolutely love football.
We'd come back from school and we'd run back to play football, and we'd play football all evening until we got shouted in.
We used to play in the summer when we were fasting. So we're talking 18 hours a day, right? No food, no water. Straight after college, we'd go and play football for 3 hours to make sure until it was dark, because that's when we could eat. 3 hours of football on an empty stomach and no water, right? Beat that, lads.
Now, Rotherham United do a great job in relation to working with kids and getting people interested. Now, if some of the parents who traditionally have not seen a future in football,
the aspirations for their youngsters was to have, you know, the old going to law or medicine, and sport was not seen as something that was seen as a good career move. Things are changing now with your second generation, third generation. Parents are more westernised with their thinking. You know, if the child wants to progress in any sport, I think there is support there from parents.
And they can't revolve it all around the pub. You know, we don't want it just to be a pub football team. We don't want it to be a drink before the game, a drink after the game, you know, a drink during the game.
I know lots of young Asian lads that would knock the spots off most Sunday League teams when it comes to playing skills and everything. But what they don't do is they don't get involved in Sunday League matches, because a lot of the Sunday League teams tend to be linked to a pub or a club or something like that.
The number of children we get from ethnic communities is still not great. We still don't attract that many, but maybe that's because of the social networking in junior football, where we get most of our children from.
Fucking packet.
Gav, can I have a word with you?
Yeah, what do you want?
Keep calling me packet, I can't stand up with it.
So, let it live with it.
But I would say to those people, don't worry about that. Get back again. You know, pick yourself up, get in there, get into that football team, because what they can't do, what they can't take away from you is your ability to do magical things with that football on the pitch.
Through the Football Community Scheme, part of that we've actually gained some ethnic minority children, because we haven't gone directly to the Sunday League clubs, we've gone straight to the schools.
I mentioned earlier about this sort of Afro-Caribbean influence, and the players who've acted as role models, and in doing so have encouraged more youngsters to get involved at all levels of football. There hasn't been that breakthrough yet in the sort of Kashmiri, Pakistani, Asian subcontinent communities.
A lot of Asians that are interested in football, it's just comes to the fact that there's not many that have broken through and took it to the next step for them to feel accepted into the game, where they still feel like they're segregated from the football. But
because there are a lot of Asian leagues. Now, them leagues are sort of formed because they're not being given opportunities in the mainstream leagues. And if the scouts went out there and had a look at some of these football teams and some of these lads, they would pick up some fantastic footballers. I mean,
there's a lot of things Asians like about football. They like football and they love it because the Asian tournaments are very serious. They take it very serious, and they've had finals at Stamford Bridge and Ibrox and Celtic, and they take it very serious, and they've put a lot of money into that the Asian tournaments. And
I have had one or two of the local lads from, you know, Sheffield, Tinsley, Rotherham, right, who've gone on to Sheffield United and their sort of football, but they never seem to have seen it through, and I never discovered why.
And I think the other thing, clubs need to be a little bit more focused on bringing in coaches who are from that ethnic background, again, to act as role models.
And I think the scout thing is completely hit and miss. If they can find people like Georgie Best in Northern Ireland and bring him in, why can't they find an Asian in England?
So it's just being aware of that, and they're trying to make a conscious effort that they do want to engage, because if you look at the demographics, you've got an ever increasing population of young British Asians, and in purely in business terms, they're missing out on this massive talent that's out there that's just been untapped.
Hey mate, what's going on?
Hi Steve, how are you doing?
I'm alright mate, how are you today?
Yeah, fine thanks. What's your plans for this Sunday?
I was going to go up to Wickersley and catch the Sunday League.
I had a bit of I think this weekend we can perhaps do something different. Should we get the Sunday League?
Hey?
I've heard of a league this weekend. It's an Asian league. Some untapped talent down there that reports back, so I'd really love you to go down and have a look.
Okay then, I'll give it a look in. Speak to you soon. But they like cricket, don't they?